7 Minutes to Success, and today we're talking about how to boost your income. And you know what? One of the reasons you should boost your income
All right.
is because
We are leaving the Chicago Harbor Lock.
We are, as you can see, on a boat ride in Chicago.
We'll be back here later to get back to the river. We'll reverse the process, go down to river level. Now we're going to be heading out to Lake Michigan, third largest of the Great Lakes. There are 5 Great Lakes. For any of you who don't know about those, came about from the last ice age. We were receding glaciers. This is all melted glacier, essentially.
And that's very important. You see, everybody has to start somewhere. You know, when
Lake
I first
Superior
started
makes
my
up
business, I
the
worked
largest
3
of all the
jobs.
Great Lakes.
3
Hence the
jobs.
most
I
superior.
had
You
a
could take the
full-time
waters from all the
job,
other Great
and I
Lakes,
had-
combine
actually,
them,
I
still
worked
would
at
not fill up
McDonald's.
Lake
And
Superior.
I used the money from
But we like our Lake
McDonald's, and
Michigan.
then I
A lot of
was
history
working
here,
on starting my
commercial
seminar
travel, and a
business
lot of recreation
at the
as well.
time.
Very
And
important
I
resource.
used
So
the
that lock
money from McDonald's
is very
actually
important
to fuel to
sustain this
seed
very
money
important
for my
resource.
business. So that way,
On our left, we have Navy
my
Pier.
full-time
Navy Pier
job
is
was used to pay
celebrating
all of
its
my
100th
bills, and I
anniversary
used
this
my,
year.
quote,
Happy birthday,
side
Navy Pier.
hustle
Built
to
in
help
1916
finance
by
Later
Charles
Foundation
Sumner
for
Frost.
my
This was
business,
originally
which
called
grew to
Municipal Pier Number
a
2.
$500,000 business.
It was one of a couple
with
piers that were
inside
designed, that were going to be along our lakefront, but they only built this one.
I wanted some Guess jeans. And my mom said, if you want some $65
And it had
jeans,
train
you
tracks
better
on it.
figure out how to pay
Boats
for
could
it.
dock
I got
up,
a job at McDonald's.
unload their
Aging
goods,
herself.
as trades would head into
Jeans.
Chicago.
Yes, Guess jeans. I had to have the red pair, the white pair,
It wasn't
the
until
black
after
pair.
World
It was
War
a
I
must, so
when
I had
the
to figure out
Navy
how to raise $65
renamed it
times
Navy
3.
Pier in honor of
And
the
then to be able to, of
veterans
course,
here in
have a Guess
Illinois. And
t-shirt
then
and
during
all of
World
that.
War
So what
II,
we're saying is,
this was
if there are
turned
some things that
into
you
a
want,
training ground for
do something a
pilots.
little extra so that you don't
There was a
even have
school
to
here.
hurt
They
your
would
main
spend a couple
income
days in the
to be able
classroom,
to
about 8
afford
days in the
whatever that thing
classroom.
is, you know?
Right.
They'd get
And
a couple of
that's very
takeoffs and landings. They would
is
take off from
you
makeshift
wanna
aircraft
have
carriers, fake
your
aircraft
basic
carriers out
needs
on
met
Lake
with
Michigan.
maybe a job.
land here at
you know, a
Navy
lot of
Pier.
people talk about
Pretty cool.
a 9 to
But
5
here's the thing, a
being
couple of
just
them didn't make their
overgrowth or
landings.
the journey of
Pilots
the
were
road.
okay,
We look at it a
but
little
the
different.
aircraft sank
We
to the
look
bottom
at
of
that
Lake
9
Michigan.
to
So right now
5
there's an
as
aircraft
seed
graveyard
money.
in the
It
middle
is
of our
the
lake.
money
Over
that you
200 World
need.
War II fighter
Sorry about
planes
that, we're
are
on
at the
a
bottom
boat here.
of Lake Michigan.
And
A couple
use, as I was
pilots that
saying,
trained
use
here.
that money to help
George
finance
H.W. Bush
your
trained here as a
business. So
pilot.
think of that job
Back in the
as
day.
a consulting
You know every
gig.
birthday
It is
he
a
has,
resource. It
jumps out
should
of a
never
plane,
be your
skydives.
source. But it's
Likes to
simply
remember
a
just a little bit of that
resource
training.
to get the income that you
Johnny
need
Carson, also
to
trained here as a
boost your
pilot.
income.
Right. So just imagine.
Now after
if
the
you had
war,
your
those veterans could have a free
business that you're
education on
running
account of the
or you had
GI Bill.
a traditional job.
There was
and
no
you had a
university
little
here in
extra
Chicago
money
for them
so
to
that you
attend,
could
so the University
get
of
whatever
Illinois
it
very
is in
nicely
order to get
built a school
full-time
right here at
business
Navy
going
Pier.
so that you can work your own job.
The students
full-time.
called
So
it
if you have
Harvard
an
on the
extra money,
Rocks.
You know, you hear people say,
Right
to me,
here at
are
Navy
you
Pier.
investing? Like I had someone ask me, are you investing? And I
After
said,
that
I invest
period,
in businesses and I
Navy
invest
Pier,
in people. And they
That's
said, well,
good.
you
It
need
was
to be
unused,
invested in the stock market.
dilapidated.
And I said, no.
It
I'm
needed a lot of
investing my
love, so in
money. I want to see it
1995, the
grow,
city invested
not in
millions of dollars
something
into
else.
turning
And we all
Navy
have the
Pier
choice of how we want
into
to
the
invest our
tourist
money.
destination
Simply,
Exactly.
if you
for
had
you.
that extra money, you could invest in
It's
the
the
next
number one
person
tourist
once you make it.
destination in all of Illinois.
Exactly.
And that's the
Frog
best gift
Block.
to give back
Right.
is when
From
you
all
can show
over
the next person to
enjoy the
realize
restaurants
their
and other
dream.
amenities here in Navy Pier.
You know,
There's
one
an
of the
IMAX
best
theater,
investments that you
the
could
world
make
famous Chicago
is the
Shakespeare Theater, a
investment
children's
in you.
museum, as well as that
You know,
Ferris wheel,
If you're going
which
to
just opened up
gamble,
Memorial Day
well,
this
really
year.
that's what it
It's
is
called
when
the
you're investing in
Centennial
the
Wheel.
stock market.
It's
Right.
climate
There's
controlled.
a gamble
Operates
based
all year
on
round,
the probability
and it goes around 3
that your
times.
money will grow.
And I'll talk more about
Well,
that
why
Ferris
take
wheel
that
later because
chance
Chicago
when you
invented
can
the Ferris
bet
wheel in
on you?
1893.
And I'll give you one little tip.
More
When
about
you
that
get
later.
extra
You'll see
cash
this
flow,
beautiful structure
open a
just here at the
separate
end. This
bank
is
account.
the Grand
Very
And
Ballroom.
it is separate from your
Original
regular
to the
money.
structure,
See, I got
original
regular
to Navy
money.
Pier.
I have traveling
Originally a
money.
ballroom.
I have non-discretionary.
Now used for a lot of
And then
events. They
there's
rent
money
the
to
space
invest
out.
in other
Very
businesses
nice
or
open
other people.
space if you're walking
So I
around this
separate
section of
everything
Navy
because I
Pier.
don't want to have to separate it by hand on
The
paper.
east end.
I can just print out the
Take a
account
look
that's for
inside.
this,
Very
print out the
beautiful,
account for that. I even use a little
ballroom.
tip where I
They
use
rent that
different
out
banks.
for
That's
I may have
good.
graduation
Chase, I may
ceremonies,
have
other
Comerica,
events,
I may
weddings
have
sometimes.
Compass, I may have other banks, so that I
Can't
know
imagine
if
it's
I'm
cheap.
going into the parking lot of that
On
bank,
our
then that
left,
means maybe
just
today I'm
next to
investing
Navy
in someone.
Pier,
If I'm going into
this
that
low
bank
red
account,
brick building
maybe
hidden by
that's the money
trees.
that we're using
That
to
is the
produce
James
books and
Jardine
things
Water
like that.
filtration plant. Not
just
nearly
separating
as
everything
glamorous
so you
as
can
Navy
boost that
Pier, but for
income.
what it does,
And once you do
it's
boost
incredibly
that
important.
income, then you can
This is
say,
one of the
okay,
largest
I
water
have
filtration
different
plants in the
kinds of money to
country.
do different tasks
And every
with.
day, it
And that's
processes
very
and filters
important,
millions
not
of
to
gallons of water for all of
commingle your
Chicagoland.
money.
Now
You
notice
should
I say
never take the
Chicagoland,
money,
not
let's
just
say
Chicago.
your living expense.
Chicagoland. So Chicago, along with a lot of its suburbs that have incorporated into the city.
That's a quick way
Now
to
it gets
get
all
in
that water
trouble
from Lake Michigan
with the
via
IRS.
water cribs.
Right, we talked about that
If you
not too
look
long ago,
to
where I
your
said, I
right,
don't rob Peter to pay
2
Paul.
miles out,
And
you'll
any
see a
business
structure
I
that looks like
start
a circus tent.
actually has to
It's not a
promote
circus tent,
itself. It has
I
to
promise.
fund itself, so that
That'd
I
be
know
pretty
that
cool.
once that business does start making
But
money, I don't have
that
to
is a
worry
water
about taking
crib.
money
Right
from
now
it
it's
to
sucking
repay
in
myself
millions of
back.
gallons of
Exactly.
water from the lake
Exactly.
So boost
into
your
15-foot
income.
wide
Make sure you get a
pipes
copy of
that are
7 Minutes
underneath
to
the lake
Success.
bed
Look at some
and
of the
over
ways
to the
that we
James
gave you
Jardine.
ideas
There
on
are
how
a
to
number of
boost your
those water
income.
cribs
And
along
when
the
you have that
horizon.
money,
You'll
you
see
have that
those in the
extra boost,
distance.
you can invest in more
And as we make a
things for
turn
yourself to start your own business.
in a little
You've
bit
been listening to Don
and
Fox
head
and
towards the
Lonnie
south end of
Montgomery.
the
and we are
harbor,
talking
you'll be able to
about
see
how to
more of
boost your
those in the
income
distance.
with 7 Minutes to Success. And until next time,
Operates
do
in a
what?
2 to 3
Stay
man
focused.
7
crew.
Minutes to Success.
They
How
live
you
out
can
there
do it.
for 1 to
Next
2
time.
weeks and they're changed out